Welcome back, and we're going to continue on talking about our exposure triangle, our exposure modes, and specifically ISO. Okay, a little bit of history. What is ISO? Well, back in the film days, ISO referred to the film speed, and specifically it referenced how much light would affect that film. And so photographers would buy film, ISO 200, 400, whatever it was, to have light or film that was more affected by light. So your night photographers would buy higher ISO film, your action photographers would buy lower ISO film, and the graininess or the noise that you see in pictures, especially older pictures, comes from your ISO. It's how much light is being affected on the film. Okay, so that's where we get ISO. In today's DSLRs, digital technology, we don't have film, but the term has kind of stuck, the concept is kind of stuck, and so digitally you are able to control how much the light passing through the lens into the camera is affecting the picture on the sensor. So we adjust our ISO last because, like I said, lower the ISO, the less noise and the less grain. Higher the ISO, the more noise, the more grain. But in low light situations, we do need to increase that ISO, and you are going to start to see some noise and some grain around 800, 1600, depending on how old your camera is. Older the camera, the more noise you're going to see sooner. Okay, the newer cameras are getting better and better with low light, and so higher the ISO, the less noise you're going to see, but still about 1600, 3200, you're going to see noise starting to develop into your pictures. Not annoyingly, but you're going to start to see some. So as an example, I've taken some pictures, well, one shot, one with, it's a low light setting, but one's with low ISO. And you can kind of see here that we don't have a lot of noise, but yet the picture's actually kind of dark. So now let's bump up the ISO. And you can see that the picture is a little more exposed. We're seeing a lot more detail in the picture, but let's zoom in and we can see just how much noise has developed in this picture. So that is ISO. Now let's go back, let's look at our exposure triangle. We've gone through our aperture, we've gone through our shutter, and now we're up here on our ISO. ISO is last. It's last because we don't want that grain. If you can keep your ISO at 100, the better, okay? It just adds clarity, it adds cleanness to the photo. Anytime we have to bump it up, might be nice, and there is software to kind of help remove this noise, but to remove it, it kind of softens the image again. So we're kind of, it's give and take depending on what you're looking for, all right? So ISO's last, okay? Keep it low to begin with. You only raise it if you're in an extremely low lit situation. So using the example of our sports photography or our action shot, if our aperture's set, we've said I want a blurry background, but I'm taking an action shot, so I have a faster shutter speed, but it's still kind of dark. This is where we're then going to compensate for our aperture, our shutter, we're going to compensate with ISO. All right, so we'll raise that up and go a stop at a time. So a stop is doubling the value every time. So 200 to 400, 400 to 800. Okay, it's a stop of light, and it essentially doubles the amount of light that comes through the lens. Okay, just get an idea of what it is. Okay, so that's your exposure triangle. That's ISO. We've been able to control ISO this entire time through program mode to aperture priority mode to shutter priority mode, manual mode. Okay, we can control the ISO this entire time, and it's used to compensate. It helps us digitally add extra light or make the camera more sensitive to light by just increasing or decreasing this ISO. So with that, let's move on. We're going to talk about exposure compensation and what that does inside the camera. Okay, we'll see you in the next one.